My family, the Hards, have always had a close association with York. In fact, some of my ancestors are buried in York Minster. We've moved between York and London. I was half brought up here, half in London. And I was brought up used to the public, used to them coming round the house and the gardens, because this house, Castle Howard, has been open to the public ever since it was built. It was started about 1700. The first part of it was finished by 1726, and then a later wing was added 25 years later because it was never finished according to the original design. But from the earliest days, people used to flock here. In fact, in 1829, in a book called Patterson's Roads, which was a sort of guidebook of the period, there's a rather nice entry which reads, "The liberality of the noble proprietor in admitting the public to view the contents of this elegant repository entitles him to grateful applause." Not quite the sort of language I'd use about the house now, but nevertheless, I think, with a certain charm. But it is very much a home, with the beautiful countryside and the beautiful grounds around it, with its temple at the end of the terrace, with the great mausoleum, Hawksmoor's masterpiece sitting on top of its hill, where many of my family have been buried since it was built in 1736. It's a curious house in some ways, in that it doesn't have any of the ghostly feeling. It doesn't even, in some curious way, have the very grand feeling that some houses do. It has the feeling that this is adapted for living, quite contrary to what some of Vanbragh's contemporaries used to say about his architecture. The rooms themselves are of a reasonable size, except by its very nature the long gallery, which is a very large room. It's 192 feet long, and the hall, which is 80 feet high, a very grand and gay place. The feeling of intimacy which you get in many of the other rooms, I think, led me, as a child and afterwards, never to think of it as other than my own home. But I think because it's been open always, we've been fortunate in that we've been able to share this home and this feeling of home with so many other people. This is perhaps the chief justification for a house such as this, with all the beautiful pictures and furniture and the other things which it contains, that it can be shared with others. Living in a house surrounded by the atmosphere of the past gives one a tremendous sense of continuity, and this also produces a sense of trusteeship for the future. Sounds rather pompous to say so, but it's a very strong feeling. My father exemplified it, I think, when he used to say, on pointing to a particular piece of furniture or objet d'art, "That's mine," meaning that he had been given it as a wedding present or birthday present or something like that, and had not inherited it. The other things within the house were his to pass on. They were his absolutely, of course, but he felt that he couldn't dispose them in quite the same way as something that belonged to him personally. I have very much the same feeling. One is there as a trustee for the future. This place has gone on for a very long time, father to son, and I hope will continue long into the future. I have 4 sons who I hope can perhaps be trusted to carry on this tradition.